Okay, Dylan Thomas, do not go gentle into that good night. Perhaps a self fulfilling prophecy. Um, Dylan Thomas was rock and roll before the Beatles. He was rock and roll before rock and roll. He was an artist. Well, he was a performance poet. Um, Very theatrical. He was a romantic. Um, and the idea of life being important because it's life was something major in his poetry. He, unlike Eliot and Auden, he didn't really write about major social issues or social themes. He wrote things on a more personal, visceral level. His he died, live fast, die young, leave a pretty corpse. That was Dylan Thomas. Bob Dylan takes his name from Dylan Thomas. Um, his most famous work, of course, being "Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night," which was written for his father, as his father was dying. But when you look back at Dylan Thomas's life, touring, writing, serving in the war, etc., there was a lot of engagement in his life. So the poem could very easily apply to Thomas himself. All right. Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, published in 1950, 3 years before his death. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning they. Do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. This is a villanelle as far as what kind of poem it is. You'll notice the first and third line from the first stanza are used as the last line in each successive stanza, alternating, and then in the last stanza, they're put together as the final couplet. Basically, his father's dying, and he's telling him, don't just surrender. Don't just give in. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. So as you get older, as you are close to death, don't just give in. You should go out with a bang. Okay? On the personal level, T.S. Eliot's "This is the Way the World Ends," not with a bang, but a whimper. Thomas is saying it should be the opposite on the personal level. When you die, it shouldn't be a whimper, it should be a bang. The wise men at their end know dark is right. We all know death is inevitable, and wise men accept it, but they don't just willingly go into the dark. They know that their lives will be celebrated, their deeds will be celebrated. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Good, average men, their frail deeds. Okay, so again, tie back to Auden, the unknown citizen. If your life is just average, if you do the average thing, your life is kind of meaningless. Okay, your deeds are delicate. But he says, even they, these good men, rage against the dying of the light. In that end, they know that, yeah, their life was average, but now they know they need to fight that much more. Wild men who caught the scent and sang the sun in flight, they don't go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding light, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying with the light. All these different people, these different groups of people, from the good and average to serious grave men to the wild free men, all know in the end that they should go out hollering. They should go out with a bang. They shouldn't just surrender. And he's telling his father the same. When you look back on your life, on the way out, your deeds, the events, the things you did should have meaning. Okay? Your life should have more meaning than your death. And that's what Thomas is getting at. And again, looking at Thomas's life, where he did die young, he died at 39. He died after a heavy bout of drinking. But again, this idea, he was kind of the rock and roll star before rock and roll was a thing. So, living life kind of wild, up and moved to Italy at one point just because his tours of America made poetry reading actually a thing. So, the impact he had was huge. So that had meaning to his life. When he died, he died drunk in the hospital. Alcohol poisoning. Not much of a death. But his life meant something. And going out, that's what you need to remember.